I found myself face to face with the man my wife has been cheating on me with. 3 months ago to the day, I stumbled upon their affair and confronted her about it. She was overflowing with apologies, insisting she still wanted us to be together and that therapy could save our marriage. We've been attending couples and individual sessions ever since. On the surface, she says all the right things. She claims to love only me, wants to fix our relationship, and is against divorce. She even allowed me access to her phone but cautioned me against snooping. She's resolute in her commitment to rebuilding our broken trust. But she's still seeing him. I found this out and kept it to myself. Tomorrow, I plan to serve her divorce papers. But first, I need to confront her lover to uncover more lies. Despite her assurances, they've been talking on the phone numerous times since I found out and told her to stop. She insists she hasn't contacted him, but the phone records tell a different story. They text almost every day. She's clearly deleting the messages from her phone because I never see them there, but she doesn't realize that deleting them from her phone doesn't remove them from her iPad. So here I am, parked outside his house, waiting for either him or his wife to leave for work. If he leaves first, I'll follow him to his job and confront him there. If she leaves first, I'll knock on his door. I told her, "You say one thing, but your actions tell a different story. I'm done." Let me start with last night. I got home from work, made dinner, and sat down to eat. My wife asked about my day. I replied, "Uneventful." That was the extent of our conversation. We ate, played with the kids, and put them to bed as if everything was normal. She and I sat in our bedroom watching TV, and she was silent for about 2 hours. Finally, after our shows ended, she said, "I'm going to bed," and that was it. No confrontation, no discussion. She went to bed, and I stayed up playing video games for a couple more hours before heading to bed myself. I slept poorly and woke up at 5 a.m. I wanted to serve her the papers today because we had a marriage counseling session scheduled for lunchtime. I had already informed our therapist about my plan, so when we started the session, I didn't wait. Me. I talked to Brad yesterday. Her. Yeah, I talked to him too. Me. Yeah, I know. Her. I don't get it. Why would you go talk to him? Me. Because I needed answers to questions you weren't honest about. Her. Oh yeah? What did he tell you? Me. Honey, he threw you under the bus. Her. What does that mean? Me. He told me everything about your sneaking around, the secret meetings, the lovey-dovey phone calls, everything. Her. Shocked. He told you? Me. Yeah. Everything. I then laid out all the details I already knew. Their texts, calls, meetings, dates, and times. She started to cry. Me. So it's clear to me that while you've been in therapy pretending to work on our marriage, you've been doing this. Her. What do you mean you're done? Me, handing her the divorce papers. I want a divorce. She took the documents as if they were a venomous snake and looked at them. Then she turned to the therapist, seeking help. Her. How can I fix this? I don't want a divorce. I want you, our life, and to stay together. When actions and words tell conflicting stories, actions always speak louder. Me. Your actions have shown me everything I need to know. How can we move forward without fighting, without hatred, and without dragging our children through the mud? To my surprise, the rest of the session remained quite civil. We both cried a lot. I expressed how betrayed and angry I felt that she continued the affair behind my back, treating me like a naive fool who would never find out. She wept because her entire world was falling apart. I told her I had cut off her access to our money, and that she could use half of it to hire a divorce attorney. I told her she could no longer live in our home, and would need to stay with family or friends. I made it clear that I was done, and that there was no chance for reconciliation. She cried even harder as we left the appointment. She grabbed my hand in a desperate attempt to seek my forgiveness. I pulled my hand away and firmly told her that I was done and didn't want her in my life anymore. She collapsed to the ground, sobbing. I walked out the door and left her there. Driving away from the therapist's office, I called Brad's wife and left a voicemail saying, "I really need to speak with you. Please call me back as soon as possible." Then I called my attorney and told her to file the paperwork, but to hold off on the restraining order unless things got ugly. My wife called and texted me multiple times after I left. I let them go to voicemail and haven't listened to them yet. I felt numb as I drove to her parents' house. Just before I went inside, my phone rang. It was Brad's wife returning my call. He hadn't said anything to her, I told her I needed to meet with her in person and asked if we could meet in an hour. She agreed, and we set a time and place. Walking into her parents' house, I told them everything. Her mom started crying immediately while her dad sat there expressionless. I explained that I loved her and tried to make it work, but I couldn't stand by while she continued to cheat on me behind my back. They were so shaken that it was hard to gauge their feelings. I assured them that I wouldn't slander her or spread the truth among our friends and family, but they needed to know why we were divorcing. I told them I didn't expect their support, and that, frankly, I wanted them to support her because she would need it. This was all about our kids. If she couldn't afford a decent place to live, I didn't want our kids living in poor conditions when they were with her. Her parents could and would support her financially. I told them I loved them and would miss our relationship. Her dad and I shook hands, and I hugged her mom before leaving. After her parents' house, I drove to the meeting spot to see Brad's wife. Now, sitting in my car, I'm waiting for her to arrive. My plan is to tell her everything, show her the video if necessary, and let her decide how to proceed. If she needs emotional support, I'll be there for her. No one should have to endure this alone. So that's been my day. I still need to meet with Brad's wife, pick up my kids from school, and change the locks on my house. I've got a security system at home, so if my wife tries to steal or damage anything, it'll be on video. She knows this, so I'm not too worried. More updates coming soon. After my last note, Brad's wife showed up at our meeting place. As soon as I stepped out of the car, I could tell she sensed something was wrong. She tried to act calm and friendly, but her unease was evident. I told her, I need to tell you something. It's not going to be easy to hear, and I'm sorry this is happening to you, to us. My wife and your husband have been having an affair. She immediately started sobbing, but I had to continue. I found out about it 3 months ago. Her head snapped up, and I saw rage in her eyes. 3 months ago? Why are you just telling me now? I had to explain how I discovered the affair, what I did when I confronted my soon-to-be ex-wife, and how we were trying to save our marriage through counseling. She listened, nodding until I got to the part where I discovered they were still seeing each other. Then she started crying again. Look, I have to pause here. I'm crying now as I write this. I feel terrible just sharing this, like I'm spreading someone else's pain. She didn't deserve any of this. Honestly, I feel absolutely horrible about telling her. She had no idea. She told me she wondered why I called her and figured it was something bad about her husband, but she had no clue about the affair, that it was happening with my wife, that I had caught them, or that they continued the relationship after being found out. Her entire world was shattered. And then I asked her if she wanted to see the video. I have to laugh, actually. She initially thought I had a sex video of the two of them, and was disgusted that I would even offer to show it to her. No, I clarified. I met with Brad yesterday and confronted him about all of this. He admitted everything. I have a video of our conversation. She considered it for a moment and decided she wanted to see it. Yesterday I had taken the time to edit the video down, as it was roughly 20 minutes of him hemming, hawing, lying, and denying things. I had condensed it into a 60-second clip, highlighting the key parts. In the video, he apologizes to me, admits he messed up, and shares details about their ongoing relationship. As soon as I hit play and she saw his face, she started crying again. I paused and asked if she was sure she wanted to continue. She insisted, so I let the video play out. After leaving her parents' house, I drove to the meeting place to see Brad's wife. Now, I'm parked in my car, waiting for her to show up. My plan is to lay everything out for her, show her the video if necessary, and let her decide how she wants to handle it. If she needs emotional support, I'll be there for her. No one should have to face this kind of pain alone. So that's been my day so far. I still need to meet with Brad's wife, pick up my kids from school, and change the locks on my house. I've already set up a security system at home, so if my wife tries to steal or damage anything, it'll be recorded. She knows about the system, so I'm not too worried. More updates will follow. After my last entry, Brad's wife arrived at our meeting place. I could tell she sensed something was wrong as soon as I stepped out of the car. She tried to act calm and friendly, but her anxiety was evident. I told her, I need to tell you something. It's not going to be easy to hear, and I'm sorry this is happening to you, to us. My wife and your husband have been having an affair. She started sobbing immediately, but I had to continue. I found out about it 3 months ago. Her head snapped up, and I saw rage in her eyes. 3 months ago? Why are you just telling me now? I explained how I discovered the affair, what I did when I confronted my soon-to-be ex-wife, and how we were trying to save our marriage through counseling. She listened, nodding until I got to the part where I discovered they were still seeing each other. Then she started crying again. I have to pause here for a moment. I'm crying now as I write this. I feel awful just putting this out there like I'm spreading someone else's misery. She did nothing to deserve this. Honestly, I feel absolutely horrible about telling her. She had no idea. She told me she wondered why I called her and figured it was something bad about her husband. But she had no clue about the affair, that it was happening with my wife, that I had caught them, or that they continued the relationship after being found out. Her entire world was shattered. There wasn't much more to say at that point. I told her how sorry I was to be the one to break the news to her. She thanked me for opening her eyes. I told her I understood exactly how she felt because I went through the same emotions 3 months ago when I found out. I assured her that if she needed someone to talk to, vent to, or even scream at, she could call me, and I'd be there for her. She thanked me again. We hugged, and left it at that. I honestly don't know what she's going to do now, but I'm sure it won't be good news for Brad. I truly feel awful for her and her kids. I got in the car and headed home. My phone had been blowing up during our conversation. My soon-to-be ex-wife had been trying to reach me since I left her earlier today. I checked the security footage at home and saw that she hadn't been there yet, so I headed back. When I arrived, she was sitting in the driveway smoking. As soon as she saw my car, she started screaming, "You told my parents, you low-life piece of..." I hit record on my phone and stuck it in my shirt pocket to capture everything on video. I got out of the car in the driveway since she was blocking the garage and calmly replied, "Yes, I did. They deserve to know the truth about why we're divorcing. I didn't lie or make anything up. I told them the truth and that they should love and support you through all of this." Her rage deflated instantly, and she went from fury to a bawling mess in seconds. She kept apologizing, asking what she could do to fix things, saying she never wanted any of this, and so on. I listened, and when she finally ran out of things to say, I responded, "I told you everything I had to say at the therapist's office today. I have nothing more to add. I'll pick up the kids from school and feed them dinner. You can get some things, but you cannot stay here tonight. I suggest you stay with your parents." At this, she got angry again. "You can't keep me from my children." "No," I replied. "I don't intend to keep you from our children. But given your current state, I don't think it's a good idea for them to see you like this. I'll tell them you went to stay with Grandma and Grandpa for a few days because Grandpa has been sick and Grandma needs some help around the house. They'll understand and won't question it, but we need to decide how and when to tell them about this, and it needs to be before the end of the week." She started sobbing again. My heart broke for her in that moment. I saw the woman I loved, the woman I married, the woman I pledged to spend my life with, raw and emotional, lost and hopeless. I hugged her and told her I was sorry this was happening, but that it was the result of her decisions, and I could no longer stand by and be married to someone who treated me this way. We stood there embracing for a long time, her crying into my shoulder in the driveway. Finally, she pulled away and tried to kiss me. I pulled back and said, "That's not going to happen." She broke down again, and I turned and walked into the house. I went into the kitchen and made myself a strong drink. About 20 minutes later, I heard her come inside. She quietly went to our bedroom, and I could hear her packing a bag. I stayed in the kitchen, and eventually, she found me there with her suitcase packed. "I hope you're happy," she said. "I'm not happy at all," I replied. "I didn't want this. I wanted you. I wanted us. I wanted a wife who would love me and treat me with kindness, and instead, I got this. So no, I'm not happy at all." She screamed, "Then why are you doing this? Why are you throwing away everything we have?" "I'm not," I said. "You threw all of this away when you went back to Brad. Now I'm just cleaning up the pieces." She screamed a few more choice obscenities at me, but I didn't take the bait. When she realized I wasn't going to engage, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard it knocked a picture frame off the wall in the back hallway. I heard her screech out of the driveway and then she was gone. I finished my drink and replayed the video of her screaming and cursing at me. If things get ugly, I've got enough video evidence to protect myself legally. I picked up the kids from school and brought them home. I explained that Mom is going to be staying with Grandma and Grandpa for a few days. The kids were sad, but didn't ask questions. We played, had dinner, and now they're getting ready for bed. I haven't heard from my soon-to-be ex-wife Brad or his wife in several hours. The house is going to be very quiet once the kids go to bed. And frankly, I might just sit here with my bottle and pour myself a few more drinks before calling it a night. I've already mentioned that I talked to Brad's wife on Friday. She told me she's not ready to end their marriage and that they're staying together and trying to make things work. They're in counseling. They have children together, and I don't blame her for trying to save her marriage. I did the same thing when I was in her shoes. Their kids don't know. I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope they can work things out. She asked me not to contact her while they work on things, and I fully intend to respect her wishes. I hope they can salvage things. My wife and I had another therapy appointment on Friday, where we exclusively discussed how to tell the kids. She told me that she doesn't want to get divorced. She begged me over and over again not to go through with this. I told her that she made the decision for me when she went back to Brad after I told her not to. She claimed they hadn't slept together again after I found out lie and that she didn't discuss the details of what she and I were going through lie. When I confronted her with what I knew again, she broke down and admitted she knew what she was doing was wrong, but didn't think about the consequences. Just that she needed someone to confide in Brad because she couldn't talk to anyone else about it. You know, like me, her husband, the one she was supposed to be trying to work things out with. Even when I consider forgiving her and giving it another shot, I can't get past the lies and deceit. She keeps digging herself deeper, lying about sleeping with Brad again, lying about what she told him. It's so natural for her that I know I can never trust her again. The lies roll off her tongue, as if she believes they're the truth. And if I weren't so informed, I might believe her. But I know better, so even when I feel the urge to embrace her, kiss her, and tell her everything will be okay, I remember her lies, and it keeps me focused on moving forward separately. We told the kids on Friday night. It was a disaster. They fully understood what was happening, and they're a wreck. They're upset with her for having a boyfriend and mad at me for leaving Mom. She didn't want me to mention the boyfriend, but I insisted on it. The kids have their first therapy appointment this Friday. I don't know how it will go, but I hope it helps them start processing their emotions. In the meantime, I'm trying to balance being a firm disciplinarian and giving them space to express their grief, anger, and confusion about their changing world. It's a tricky balancing act. Yes, it's okay to be angry and yell and cry. No, it's not okay to destroy your toys because you're angry. Stuff like that. My soon-to-be ex-wife came back to the house on Friday night, and for now, we're coexisting until we figure out who is moving out, and when. We'll have to sell the house. I can't afford to keep it and pay for child support and alimony, no matter what those amounts turn out to be. The housing market in our area is currently down, and no one is buying houses, so we agreed to wait until spring to list it, hoping for a better price. I can't wait for the next 4 months to be over. It's also going to be a miserable Christmas. I can't even bring myself to put up decorations. Celebrating anything right now feels completely alien to me. I'll do it, though. I want the kids to have as normal a Christmas as possible. I just need to find the time and mental energy to drag the tree out of storage and set it up. She's been sleeping on the couch. As much as I'd like to take the high road and offer her our bed, I just can't bring myself to do it. I put a lock on the bedroom door and lock it every morning before I head out so she can't get in there and mess with my stuff. For now, she's using the guest bathroom and keeping some clothes in a suitcase. Call it petty, call it a jerk move, call it whatever you want. But she left me, and I'm going to sleep in my bed at night and let her endure the couch. So that's where we stand at the moment. It's not a super detailed update, but it covers the basics of what's happened over the past few days. The house is relatively calm. She's barely talking to me, much less screaming or throwing tantrums. The few things we do talk about are kid-related, and kept brief and to the point. I'm sure there's more going on beneath the surface with her. There always is. But for now, she's being agreeable. First off, I want to assure you that everything remains cordial, respectful, and civil. The tension was high during the first week, but it's eased considerably as we adjust to our new normal. Honestly, It gives me hope that we can continue to resolve things amicably. Despite everything she's put me through, she's been pretty straightforward and honest about things, and I've stuck to my guns well, with one notable exception about moving forward. Secondly, putting up the Christmas decorations was great. The kids had a blast. We played Christmas music, watched Christmas movies, and didn't take things too seriously. My soon-to-be ex-wife got involved too. Since she's still living here, I couldn't exactly stop her from helping out. She supervised the kids putting ornaments on the tree, while I hung lights outside. When I came in, we all had hot cocoa and watched Christmas Vacation. I sat on one side of the kids, and she sat on the other. In previous years, we would have snuggled up together on the couch to watch the movie, but that wasn't going to happen this time. Thirdly, the kids' therapy is going fairly well. The first session was mostly paperwork and introductions. We did touch on some issues, but the kids were shy and unsure about how things would unfold. Having both me and my soon-to-be ex-wife in the room probably made them a bit uncomfortable too. The second session, however, seemed to go much better. We started out talking together, but then the therapist asked if we could step out for a while. We waited outside while the therapist and the kids talked privately. After about 15 minutes, we went back in, and the kids shared what they discussed. They expressed a lot of sadness and uncertainty, said they didn't want us to get divorced and didn't want to live in separate houses. Here's the kicker. My soon-to-be ex-wife started crying and said, "I don't want that either." I just stared at her dumbfounded and thought, "Are you kidding me?" I almost let slip, "Well, you shouldn't have cheated on me then." But I kept my mouth shut. Instead, I clumsily added, "I don't want that either," which felt like I was just echoing her sentiments. Then I turned to the therapist and asked if we could have a word with her alone before we wrapped up. With just 5 minutes left in the session, the therapist asked the kids to step out into the waiting room and shut the door. She then laid into my wife. She told her she was being manipulative and making me out to be the bad guy with her comments. She said if my wife truly didn't want to get divorced, she should have considered the consequences of her affair. It was everything I wanted to say, but couldn't find the words for. It was kind of amazing. That night, my soon-to-be ex-wife apologized for what was said in therapy and promised to be more mindful of how her words affect the kids in the future. It was about all I could hope for at that moment. Outside of that, work is going well, and Christmas preparations are coming along nicely. Oh, and I have to admit something that goes against my earlier resolve. I ended up having sex with my wife. Here's how it happened. Let's rewind to the night we put up the Christmas decorations. It had been a good day. We all enjoyed ourselves, watched movies, and tried to create a sense of normalcy. After putting the kids to bed, we settled down to finish watching It's a Wonderful Life, her favorite Christmas movie. We'd been sipping on eggnog and brandy throughout the evening, and between the warm feelings and the alcohol, my judgment was compromised. She leaned over and softly kissed my neck. I turned to her, and one thing led to another. We ended up having sex. I wish I could say I didn't have thoughts like, "Don't do this," but I did. I knew it wasn't the best decision, but I went ahead anyway. It had been so long since we were intimate, and I know my judgment was clouded by the alcohol and emotions. The sex itself was actually enjoyable, but afterward, I felt a wave of disgust and regret. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, the betrayals, the progress I had made, and how far I had come. I'm still pretty angry with myself for letting it happen, and now I've got to deal with all the fallout from this. That night, I told her that it didn't change anything between us, that I still want a divorce. I made it clear that it couldn't happen again, and that we weren't going back to the way things were. She agreed, or at least she said she did, but who knows with her. I haven't had a chance to discuss it with my therapist or with our marriage counselor, who we are still meeting with, and now I need to get an STD test because I don't know if she picked up something from her lover. I don't have to worry about a surprise pregnancy because I had a vasectomy several years ago, but the rest of it just absolutely boggles my mind. How could I have been so stupid and let my guard down? I'm sorry to disappoint anyone here with what happened. I'm imperfect. I'm pissed at myself, and I'm not going to let it happen again. Let me start by saying that my wife and I ultimately decided to stick it out. Yes, I know that will disappoint a lot of you. I know that I struggled with feelings of disappointment in myself for most of last year. We are not back to 100%, nor do I know that we ever will be, but things are certainly better. To get to this point took about 9 months of intense therapy, both individually and together, along with therapy with our kids. We both had to be willing to forgive and move on. Frankly, I consider it to be something of a miracle that we made it this far. Here's how all of that went down. After my last update, I made it clear that we wouldn't be sleeping together again. We continued to go to couples therapy, and she really started to open up about what she was thinking and feeling, and what led her to reunite with her lover. At some point, probably in March, it became clear to me that something had changed in us both. We weren't just going through the motions. We were honestly expressing ourselves to each other. She had deep-seated fears of becoming lost in being a wife and mother. She wanted something that was missing and tried to get it outside of our marriage. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't falling for a con. I truly believe she was lost and looking for something she was missing. Yes, she should have looked for it with me, but she didn't. I have forgiven her for that. I expressed all of my hurt, pain, and how shattered my trust had become. I was fearful of getting burned again, and honestly, I still am to a point. I know it could happen. Really, anything can happen. But I've given up my need to control things and handed it over to my faith in her that she will never do something like this to me again. It's not just that. I get a lot of inner peace from having a plan. That's just who I am. Personally, I need to plan and work through details, and doing that gives me comfort. I know what I would do if I ever started to question her loyalty or found evidence of her cheating again. That plan gives me strength and allows me to put the hurt out of my head. For months, her cheating and lying were all I could think about. Now, I rarely think about it anymore. She has not spoken to, reached out to, or checked in on her lover in over a year. I know this because I have access to her phone, laptop, and Facebook messages, which she agreed to let me check. For a while, I was tempted to check her stuff every single day. It was hard not to want to go through every message and question who she was texting and why. But with time, my desire to check in on her subsided. I always made sure to do it randomly and without warning to catch her if I needed to. I haven't done that in probably 2 months now, and I don't think I'll do it again unless something makes me suspicious. Therapy helped considerably on that front. I haven't had any contact with her lover or his wife since last December, and I'm okay with that. Occasionally, I see on Facebook that they're still together, but I don't dwell on it. In fact, I set her profile so it doesn't appear in my news feed, and I think the last time I checked was several months ago. Their lives don't concern me anymore. We've distanced ourselves from our old social circle and have found new friends. The old group wasn't necessarily toxic, but their priorities didn't align with ours. They enjoyed heavy drinking, drugs, and flaunting their wealth and status. While they were nice enough, they weren't the kind of people we wanted to spend our time with. Our new friends are still social and outgoing, but without the negative behaviors. They focus more on family and maintaining a positive atmosphere. Last New Year's Eve, we spent time with our old friends and ended up starting the new year hungover and miserable. This year, we celebrated with our new friends, had a great time, and were able to enjoy New Year's Day with the kids. Our kids are aware that we're staying together. Over the summer, we decided to put the divorce proceedings on hold. It was initially scheduled for March or April, but we decided to push it back. The process of dividing our belongings was tough and contributed to both her willingness to open up and my willingness to give our relationship another chance. We explained to the kids that we were no longer getting divorced, emphasizing that sometimes parents need to work through difficult times and that we were committed to doing so. She moved back into our bedroom in August, and I removed the lock from the door. Life isn't perfect, but it's better, and it keeps improving every day. On Christmas, she expressed profound regret for everything she put me through and promised to keep working every single day to rebuild my trust and love. I do love her, probably more now than ever. I understand how couples can survive something like this. We've planned a family vacation for spring break and we're all looking forward to it. We continue to meet with our couples therapist weekly and have regular individual therapy sessions as well. Our marriage counselor is amazed at how we've managed this and continue to heal the fractures in our marriage. It wasn't easy for a long time, but it's easier now than it was. I want to be as clear as I can about what we did to heal. This may help someone else going through a similar situation. I'm no expert, but this is what worked for us. Therapy. Both individual and couples therapy were crucial. Therapy helped me understand my shortcomings as a man, husband, and father. It brought me clarity, peace, and restored the confidence I lost when my wife cheated. Her individual therapy helped her identify and address her shortcomings as a wife and mother. It helped her decide whether she truly wanted reconciliation or to go her own way. Once she chose reconciliation, our couple's therapy mapped out the path forward and envisioned our future together. Commitment. We both fully committed to working towards a common goal. We bought into the process and did the necessary work outside of therapy to rebuild our relationship. This included radical honesty. When I felt something, I told her. When she felt something, she told me. We didn't bottle up our feelings. We expressed them. When she spoke to me, I put aside all distractions and truly listened. She did the same for me. Accountability. We held each other accountable for our actions and words. We made sure we were both putting in the effort needed to rebuild trust and intimacy. Quality time. We prioritized spending quality time together as a couple and as a family. This helped us reconnect and rebuild our emotional bond. Forgiveness. This was a big one. We both had to learn to forgive each other and ourselves. Forgiveness was a process, not a one-time event, and it's something we continue to work on. Patience. Healing takes time. We had to be patient with ourselves and each other. We celebrated small victories and acknowledged progress, no matter how minor it seemed. I hope this gives some insight into our journey and maybe helps someone else. If you're going through something similar, know that it's possible to come out stronger on the other side, but it takes a lot of work, commitment, and a willingness to be vulnerable and honest. Daily check-ins. Every night after putting the kids to bed, we would sit down and check in with each other. We'd discuss our day, our plans for the next day, and our feelings about each other. Initially, these conversations were difficult, but over time they became second nature. Now I look forward to our nightly check-ins, and they've had a significant positive impact on our relationship. Asking each other questions. It was like we went back to when we first started dating. We've been together for a long time, and are not the same people we were back then. People change, and the question was whether the people we are now can still be together in a healthy marriage. We found lists of questions online ranging from "What's your favorite color?" to "What would you do if one of your parents died right now?" We went through these lists and discovered new aspects of each other. It's become fun rediscovering who she is. Acts of service. We found a Christian-based guide to repairing a marriage after infidelity that emphasized doing acts of service for your partner. These ranged from simple gestures like writing a note, doing a chore for them, or sending a midday message, to more elaborate actions like planning a date night or taking a weekend away together. These small acts accumulated over time and rebuilt my trust in her and my love for her. Simple things like her taking out the trash for me when I was working late made a big difference. Stop dwelling on it. This was challenging for me. I had to actively choose not to engage in thoughts that took me to a dark place. This was incredibly uplifting because it freed up my mind and energy to focus on other things. Whenever I felt like I was starting to dwell on it, I'd do something to distract myself. Work out, go for a run, watch something funny on TV, or play with the kids. Eventually, I stopped thinking about it regularly, and over time, those thoughts became less frequent. I hope you don't take this as me preaching. I'm not. I honestly believe that some people shouldn't be together. I felt that about us until partway through this last year. Some people can make it work. Others definitely shouldn't. I can't judge your situation any better than you can judge mine from the outside. But for now, I truly believe that we will be together for the long haul. Something else I want to mention. I can't log in and check this account regularly because it starts to dredge up my old bad feelings about what happened between us. I plan to post this and then check in again in a few days. After that, I'll probably just leave the account alone for the future. I don't want to delete it in case someone else can benefit from the discussion, but I can't re-expose myself to all of this repeatedly if I want to continue moving forward with her. I hope you understand. My life took a dramatic turn when I made the regrettable choice to reconnect with my ex-lover, which led to the unraveling of my marriage. Looking back, I see how my actions, driven by a deep-seated sense of dissatisfaction and the need for emotional validation, created a rift that seemed insurmountable at the time. Initially, I was caught up in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. My decision to reach out to my lover was fueled by a need to escape the monotony and pressures of daily life. I felt lost and sought comfort outside my marriage, a choice I now recognize as a monumental mistake. When my husband discovered the affair, the consequences were swift and severe. Our home, once a haven, became a battleground of anger and heartbreak. The confrontation was intense, he was devastated, and I was overwhelmed with guilt and fear of losing everything I held dear. When he told me he wanted a divorce, it felt like my world was crumbling. I knew I had made a grave error, but I couldn't undo what was done. Watching him suffer and knowing that my actions had led us to this point was heart-wrenching. Despite my initial resolve to salvage the relationship, the road to reconciliation was fraught with challenges. We were both engulfed in a sea of raw emotions. I tried to present myself as someone who was still committed to our marriage, but my actions spoke louder than words. The lies and betrayal I had engaged in were hard to overcome, even with the best intentions. In the early days after the discovery, living under the same roof while we navigated the logistics of our separation was emotionally draining. I moved to the couch and had to contend with the physical and emotional distance between us. Our interactions were minimal, and the tension in the house was palpable. The thought of the upcoming Christmas, with its usual joy overshadowed by our crisis, felt almost unbearable. One night, while putting up Christmas decorations, something unexpected happened. In a moment of shared nostalgia and emotional vulnerability, we ended up being intimate. It was a confusing and conflicting experience for me. On one hand, it felt comforting and familiar. On the other, it was a painful reminder of the breach in trust that had occurred. The aftermath left me feeling a mix of regret and hope. As we continued our journey through therapy, both individually and together, I began to confront the underlying issues that had driven me to seek solace outside our marriage. The therapy sessions were a revelation. I started to understand the depth of my mistakes and the impact they had on my husband and our family. The process of opening up about my fears and regrets was cathartic, but also profoundly challenging. By March, we decided to pause the divorce proceedings. I realized that despite the enormous strain, I wanted to give our marriage another chance. It wasn't a decision made lightly, but it was born from a genuine desire to rebuild what had been broken. The process of working through our issues, from engaging in radical honesty to participating in daily check-ins, became crucial to our healing. These efforts were not just about repairing our relationship, but also about rediscovering who we were as individuals and as a couple. We also reassessed our social circle, distancing ourselves from friends whose lifestyles did not align with our renewed focus on family and personal growth. Finding new friends who supported our values was a significant step toward creating a more positive environment for our family. The transformation in our relationship was gradual, but significant. By the end of the year, we had made strides in rebuilding trust and connection. Our decision to stay together was a testament to our mutual commitment to making things work despite the odds. I was deeply remorseful for the pain I had caused, and dedicated myself to proving my sincerity and commitment to our marriage. Looking back, I see the journey as one of immense personal growth and transformation. The path to healing was arduous, but it taught me valuable lessons about trust, commitment, and the importance of addressing issues openly. I am hopeful for our future together, recognizing that while we have made progress, the journey of rebuilding and growing together continues.